morning. I am the Dean of Vino-Versity, and I am here to explain wine in the simplest language possible. I recently went to a dinner party, and I was tasting wines from the same winery, but they happened to be pouring Syrah and Petite Sirah. And I found that pretty much everyone at the table was surprised that those are two entirely different grapes. They're not related to each other at all. If anything, people thought the word petite, that they were getting maybe like a half a bottle of Syrah. So today's category is K, Syrah, Syrah, Shiraz. And let me explain all three terms. So the grape Syrah, S-Y-R-A-H, is actually, it's one of my favorite grapes in the world. The grape itself has like very natural flavors. Like the best way to describe it is pretend you're in an episode of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, and you are literally in character, like you're on horseback. It's like that mystical medieval period, and you're on horseback riding through a dark, dank forest, and you can just like smell all the wild sort of animals and game, wild elk, wild boar, and you also can get the aromas of like that sort of the wet, mossy earth and mushroomy kind of mulchy earth and the mossy trees and just absolute like wildness. That's Syrah. It just tastes like a complete mix of wild berries, wild herbs, and wild game. And it's so exciting to drink. And that is the nature of the grape juice itself. So, if you understand like every wine, every grape has its own flavor, you're way ahead of most people. Then it's all about where is the grape grown, because each location around the world will change the style of that grape juice. And the winemaker themselves, of course, is like a chef, and they will do all different things to also, again, change the flavor and texture of the wine. So anyway, that is the classic profile of Syrah. Now in Australia, they grow a lot of Syrah. We always think of Syrah, the most prolific place it grows is southeast France, what's called the Rhone Valley. But I definitely think Australia is sort of tied first or perhaps second as being one of the most famous locations for Syrah. Now, they call it Shiraz, right? S-H-I-R-A-Z. Different spelling, but same grape. However, because the location of Australia has very unique features, as does every place in the world, but unique features that kind of bring the grape juice into a different state, which I sort of call like jazzy state. And by the way, the essence of the environment, the essence of the agricultural environment, which changes the grape juice, is called the terroir. We will talk about terroir probably 62 gajillion times because it's one of the major essences of understanding wines. But the location, again, the terroir of the location, the agricultural environment, changes the grape juice, even though it's born with its own flavor inside the grape. So the jazziness of Australian Shiraz is sort of like adding a little bit of a 10 spice box into the wine, a little like cedar spice box, a little bit of black peppercorn, just a little bit elevated kind of spice component, and you almost get this like little cinnamony kind of clovey essence. And then there's just, again, something in the soil and the environment that I think just kind of energizes the wine, and it just sort of pops out of the glass and just dances around. It's not like sitting around, kind of like imagine the grape juice sitting on a lounge chair versus like getting up and dancing. I consider Aussie Reds often to be jazzy. It's just a great way to describe it, like the energy or the verve in the juice itself. Okay, so that's your Aussie Shiraz. It has this very unique, again, like peppercorn spice box, clove, kind of licoricey, slight licoricey essence of leaning more into, if you hate black licorice, don't listen to me. It's not literally like black licorice, but it's that clovey kind of essence. That brings us to Petite Sirah. Petite Sirah. It is a small grape, so hence petite. It is a tiny little grape. And there's two things that are noteworthy about Petite Sirah. And again, this is an entirely different grape from Syrah. They're not, the same. But Petite Sirah, because it's so tiny, technically there's like a lot more skin compared to the amount of pulp in the middle, because in a bigger grape you have skin, but then you have a lot of pulp in the middle, and the juice of the pulp has different flavors from the skins. So when you crush a little Petite Sirah grape, you have a lot more skin, and you're crushing more ink out of it, and the ink itself not only makes the wine like super dark, but it also possesses flavors. There are specific flavors in the ink. And then you also have in the skins what are called the tannins. Oh my God, we'll talk about that 162 times as well. But the tannins are responsible for several affectations. So first and foremost, the inkiness, the color. You could see a glass of Petite Sirah from like 5 miles away. It is like Barney purple. It's like a big bouquet of violets. It's so dark and dank and opaque and purple. And it's just beautiful colored. So it possesses also, as a grape, it naturally has an inherent kind of ripeness. A lot of grapes, they grow at different rates under the same sunlight. Petite Sirah grows quickly, so it creates more sugar quickly. So it's a very, when picked correctly, a very ripe, like overripe grape. And the juice tastes like boysenberry marmalade. It's like complete boysenberry, blackberry, blueberry, cassis compote. So you get all this gorgeous like ripeness, this jammy fruit, but it's not a fruit bomb because there's so much skin that when you crush that skin, first of all, you get this sort of more astringent essences and more herbal and vegetal essences from the skins, and you also get the tannins, which are responsible for two main things. One, the tannins actually act like an astringent and actually cleanse the mouth, like wipe it clean. Whoosh. So all that jamminess kind of just, it's gone. I just made that pop noise. That was not a sound effect. That was just me. And so as much as you're hit with like grape sugar, it also sweeps off quickly. So you're like, oh yeah. And the tannins also are responsible for what I call almost like a magnetic pull. It actually pulls the molecules in like this, and it just absolutely compresses them together into a like bowling ball. So it's almost like, when you watch Star Wars and the from the Death Star, and it like pulled in the ships. So it literally compacts the grape juice like this and compresses it. So you almost get this bowling ball. When you drink a tannic wine, it literally shoots down your tongue like a bowling ball, traveling very quickly down the middle of the lane, and it goes whoosh like this. Versus wines that have lower tannins, they're not as molecularly compacted, so when you drink them, they're a little more loosey, free-flowing, and they kind of almost, when you drink them, they kind of almost float out and up like this. So you get this voluminous, rounder, softer, less assertive. You get like this versus whoosh, the whoosh sound. So that tannic essence, that compactness, we associate that with structure, muscle, power, focus, and Petite Sirah has all of that. So again, what a great compliment to this jammy, boysenberry marmalade. And then you get this like structure and focus, and it just is great together. I adore Petite Sirah. Depending on how it's made, again, sometimes it can be an enormous like black hole of density, which is great when you're having a meal that's like just huge. It's even actually just great, honestly, with like a big cheeseburger. But there are also Petite Sirahs that are made like in steel tanks, and so they crush the skins a little lighter, so you don't get that tightness from the tannins. You get a little more drinkable, quaffable Petite Sirah, and usually the price indicates that. If it's like under $15, it's usually going to be that style, that lighter style. But still, again, a purple monster with a light body. Price point kind of does indicate in some level the level of density and weight and the sort of vastness of the body of the wine, both in volume and in weight. So that's my little profiles of Syrah and Petite Sirah. I strongly recommend you try all three because they're so different from each other. Again, the Aussie Shiraz having very different, like extra little plus bonus flavors aside from the more gamey Game of Thrones kind of style from France or from other parts of the world. California Syrah, also shout out to Cali Syrah. Boom. Okay, see you next time for another random topic. Bye. Cheers.